Fiji and Japan are heading to Europe at the end of this year to compete in an 8 nations competition. It's going to be at the conclusion of the 2026 Nations, which you probably are aware has been postponed rather than cancelled. Once that's done, and in place of the regular end of year tests, they're going to set up this 8 nations competition, which includes the regular 6 nations teams: Wales, England, Ireland, France, Scotland, and Italy, and then add on one team being Fiji and another team being Japan. I had a read of this, and a few websites. Stuff's reporting it here in New Zealand, and The Guardian's reporting it from the UK. But it seems to be essentially a replacement for the games which we would have ordinarily had, with the Southern Hemisphere teams generally doing a tour of Europe. Those games are out the window, but we do get one Southern Hemisphere team in Fiji, and then Japan, who'll be heading west to play against the 6 nations team. So, from what I read about the structure of the competition, it will have 2 pools, and I've aligned the markers, the magnets, the way they're going to be lined up. So Wales, England, Ireland, and Fiji in one pool. That seems like, I would have to go back and check the world rankings, but that seems like a bit of a stacked pool. No offense to this other group. I guess Scotland were maybe doing a bit better in the 6 nations than I'm giving them credit for. France, Scotland, Italy, and Japan. I guess likewise France were doing better in 2020. My brain's just got it in my head that either Wales, England, or Ireland needs to be over here, and then either France, Scotland, probably not France. I'm maybe showing a bit of bias here, but historical bias. Scotland or Italy need to be over the other side. But anyway, it's a pretty good news story, so it seems to have all been confirmed. They haven't yet ratified the dates. The schedule's still up in the air. But the start date they mentioned was the 14th of November. The actual fixtures list to be decided. The venues, it seems like it's going to be, for the most part, their ordinary grounds. I didn't read where Japan or Fiji will be based. That didn't seem to be quite down to that detail yet. Wales, I don't think will be able to play at the Millennium, because I don't think that's going to be available. But the other teams, I believe, will still be using their regular home grounds. So yeah, it's a tough one for Georgia, because Georgia's been knocking on the door of the 6 nations for seemingly years now. I know there's a lot of people who would love to see Georgia get a crack. A lot of people who say, no, Georgia's still not good enough. But I would have thought in a time like this, maybe it's time to give the Georgians a run, rather than get teams from the other side of the world. But revenue seems to have dictated that with Japan, the rugby following there at the moment, the success they had at the last World Cup, they're a better candidate. And likewise Fiji, especially with the fact that a lot of Fijian players are based in Europe, doesn't seem to be as much of a trek for them. But that being said, I would say all the Georgian players are probably based in Europe, just quietly. But yeah, as for crowds, they've mentioned that they would like to allow crowds at this stage to again help the unions recoup some of the lost revenue. But there's no way they would be selling out full grounds. I think the one I read in The Guardian said they're looking at maybe half capacity. So if you've been following Super Rugby down here in this neck of the woods, at least in Australia, where there is still some community spread of COVID, they have been doing very limited attendance to rugby matches over here, with people kind of seated in a socially distanced manner, and I'm sure other sports have been doing that as well, probably in Europe as well. So yeah, that seems to be the plan. What do you guys reckon? Can you see Japan or Fiji? Because I believe the way it would work is they would have a final match based on the winners of these pools. Can you see either Japan or Fiji upsetting the traditional 6 nations countries? Those pools do seem very difficult. And the Guardian article actually made a good point that the guys from Japan will not have had any rugby for a very, very long time, because if they're playing in the top league, their season's been canned. Not like the Premiership, the top 14 and whatnot, the Pro 14, which are all gearing up to get back underway. Their season was totally canned. So they will likely be a wee bit rusty, so they probably need a really long pre-tournament camp to get some match sharpness. But yeah, it's a good news story that it all seems to be confirmed, because it's been talked about for a long time. There was talk about South Africa potentially joining in, and also Fiji, Japan. There was talk about it maybe being longer term, expanding the Six Nations. Everyone seems to want to get Japan in, but this one, at least as a one-off tournament for 2020, we'll see Japan and Fiji compete with the Six Nations countries. So yeah, it should be an interesting one. Again, I said, good news story. I think we all miss international rugby. We should have been watching internationals about this time of year, but alas, we settled for Super Rugby for now. And then, as I said, the other club competitions will be getting underway soon. But yeah, you guys let me know what you reckon. How well do you think those teams will go? Who do you think is going to be the big time favourite? And I guess we'll follow the details as they come out. But yeah, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.